So we've looked at squares and square roots, and now we're going to look at cubes and cube roots. If squaring a number and finding the square root of a number have to do with squares, then cubing a number and finding cube roots have to do with cubes. Okay? So, but instead of area, it has to do with volume. Squaring and square root have to do with area of square, and finding the cubes and cube roots have to do with the volume of a cube. So 4 to the third power, we read that 4 cubed because it is the volume of a cube with side 4. So this would be 4, this would be 4, this would be 4. We know that's 4 times 4 times 4, and that is 64. That would be the volume of a cube with side 4. 11 cubed, or 11 to the third power, is 11 times 11 times 11, which, if you do that on your calculator, is 1,331. Now, when we find the cube root, it looks a little bit like the square root. Notice you have a radical right here, but notice you have this little 3 right there. That 3, that is called the index of the radical, and that tells you which root you are finding. When you find a square root, we write the square root like that. There's a little invisible 2 there that we don't write, and that's just standard for a square root. But with a cube root, we have to put the 3 there to show that we're finding the cube root. And we're asking what times itself three times is 8. Well, that's pretty easy to figure out. The cube root of 8 is 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Now, you're not going to be asked for very large cube roots, because they get, when you cube a number, they get large very quickly. You see right here, you know 11 squared is 121. Well, 11 cubed is 1,300. So they're growing exponentially, as we would expect. So you don't have to memorize them. Not all calculators can find cube roots for you. Your scientific calculators can, but your little blue ones, your 4-function calculators can't. So you have a table here, okay? So the cube root of 125, we look in our table, the cube root of 125 is 5, because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. What's the cube root of 729? We look in our chart right there, and the cube root of 729 is 9. 9 times 9 times 9 is 729. We can look at equations involving squares and cubes. Here, this equation says x cubed equals 216. We want to know what times itself 3 times is 216. When you look at your chart, the cube root of 216 is 6, so x is 6. Now, if you remember when we talked about squaring, that every positive number has 2 square roots, a positive square root and a negative square root. That is not the case with finding the cube root, because if you cube a negative, you get a negative number. So if you're finding the cube root of a positive number, all you have is a positive root. Okay, x cubed equals 1,000. What times itself 3 times is 1,000? X has to be 10. These last two are very easy. We're talking about cubes, we're talking about side lengths, we're talking about volume. It says a cube has a side length of 20. We could sketch a cube, the side length of 20, since it's a cube. All the sides are 20, and it says to find the volume. Well, the volume of a cube is length times width times height. They're all the same. We could say side times side times side, so the volume is side cubed. So we're going to plug in 20, and 20 cubed is 8,000. So this is 8,000, and volume is in cubic units, so this would be inches cubed. That's how many little cubes we can fit inside that box. That's why it is called cubic units. Last one. A cube has a volume of 125 inches cubed. Find the side length. So use your formula, not squared, cubed. They gave us the volume, And if the side cubed is 125, what is the side? The side has to be 5. And our units are inches. If you have any questions, write them down. We'll look at this in class.